if you think about the music that has changed your lives, you know, everyone who's listening is going to be thinking of songs that when they were 15, 16, music that literally changed their lives. For me, it was Enter Sandman. I was in a pool hall with my mate who was the guitarist, and we were playing pool, and they had a massive big projector screen, and Enter Sandman came on MTV back in the day when MTV was music as opposed to pregnant 16-year-olds. And at that point, we just stood there, like mouths open. Like, we were like, this is unbelievable. Like, this sounds the biggest thing that we've ever heard in our lives. And instantly we were like, that's what we want to do for the rest of our life. It changed my life. That song and that moment changed my entire life. That piece of music is priceless to my life. It's completely priceless. How much will I physically pay for it? Nothing. Literally nothing, because I don't have to, because I can go on YouTube or Spotify or anywhere else and I can just go and play it instantly. And therefore we have this really odd time where music is priceless and worthless at the same time, because it's not attached to a thing. Lovely day in Brighton today. Loving it. Loving the weather. Off to see Edward before we go to Northampton. I'm going to do a podcast in Northampton for the Audio Works. And then back. Crazy day, lots of meetings. But lovely, it's sunny. I'd like to do a bit more with the Twitter idea, just to experiment with my own stuff to make sure it works. At the moment, I think I'm starting to get more interaction via Twitter. The only one thing with Twitter is it's just so worldwide, but it's so good for, Twitter is so good for searching and chatting to people. So, you know, I think one thing that we could really do, I really think we need to dig down into this influencer idea where everyone's an influencer. And the way we're going to do that is Instagram and Twitter.
Because it is a bit of a leap of faith, really, because you are opening yourself up to huge amounts of criticism, huge amounts of potential embarrassment.
Which will come.
Yeah, and I just need to I really don't take it well.
Yeah. I think that is not the criticism. I think it's really difficult because you'll get 99 pieces of really nice feedback and you'll get one guy who calls you a complete twat. And it's so easy to focus on that. And the only thing you can do is feel sorry for them. Because if they've got that much time on their hands to watch something and feel the need to comment and call you a twat, and rather than just turn it off and do something else, then they're a sorry individual. And that's the only way that you can think about it. Because if you start getting angry about it and going, well, I'll tell you what I think, and then they win. Because that's what they want. They want you to go, fuck you, and them to go, no, fuck you. Like... Hey guys, so we're on the road, we're off to Northampton from Brighton. We're off to a studio to do a podcast. We're going to be invited to do a podcast interview with the Audio Works. And I checked out their stuff and it's amazing. So they do loads and loads of podcasts for all sorts of creative people, everything from scientists through to tattooists, musicians, music industry people. So it should be a fun day. So a couple of hours up the road to Northampton, do the podcast, jump back in. I've got a meeting tonight with a band called Oceans, so it's going to be a bit of a hectic day, but I'm really looking forward to it. This is an example of that, you know, the collaboration thing that I'm always talking about. You've got to find a way of doing collaborations. Well, this isn't a collaboration with a band, but it's a collaboration with a studio, someone who does podcasts. So you guys have got to get on the collabs. It's the fastest way of growing your audience and at the same time getting your message out there. So spend 2 hours tonight just getting on LinkedIn, getting on Twitter, using the search engine to actually find people, and then one by one hit them up and say, I want to do a collab, what can we do together? And you'll get 50 people that will say no or ignore you, but someone will come back and say yes. Have a go. Hello, is it Josh?
Hello, nice to meet you.
Damien, how you doing? Enter Sandman came on MTV back in the day when MTV was music as opposed to pregnant 16-year-olds. And at that point, we just stood there like mouths open. Like, we were like, this is unbelievable. Like, this sounds the biggest thing that we've ever heard in our lives. And instantly we were like, that's what we want to do for the rest of our life. It changed my life. That song and that moment changed my entire life. That piece of music is priceless to my life. It's completely priceless. How much will I physically pay for it? Nothing. Literally nothing, because I don't have to, because I can go on YouTube or Spotify or anywhere else and I can just go and play it instantly. So the only time I'm going to give them music for it is if I feel guilty, because I feel like I should, which I don't. And therefore we have this really odd time where music is priceless and worthless at the same time, because it's not attached to a thing. And because we don't know where we're going to go with the music industry of what it's going to be attached to, and record companies aren't sure about that, what they're doing is they're saying, well, you prove to us. You go and get on social media, you prove you've got an audience, and then what we'll do is we'll expand that. So it's like a business that comes along, like the Dragon's Den, where they sit there and they say, what have you done? And they say, well, we've managed to get our product into Sainsbury's, and the Dragons in Dragon's Den are thinking, well, if you can get us into Sainsbury's, I can get it into Tesco's and Marks and Spencer's and everywhere else. And the record labels are looking at this thinking, we just need proof. But the bands are focusing towards the labels instead of towards the fan base. So the bands are focusing towards the labels. The labels are saying, no, you don't need to focus towards us. You just need to go and prove it to the audience. And as soon as the bands realize that and say, all we need to do is go and build an audience. And when the audience listens to us and wants to be a part of this, then the fickle record labels will come knocking on the door and say, good, it's going to work. That's all we need to know is it going to, we just asked the question, will this work if we invest the money into it? And you've answered the question, yes, it will. Sign you up, put some money into it, get some expertise and some specialism in there, and all of a sudden it should grow bigger and bigger. We're almost back in Brighton and I'm running very late for a bunch of meetings I've got tonight, but the breaks with the M25 in this country are a complete nightmare. Today was wicked. I got so many great ideas about podcasts, and it's something that I've sort of recommended to people if they don't like to be on camera, then podcasting is a thing to do. But then actually being on a podcast and seeing it in action and seeing how simple it is and the possibilities of what it could be, I just don't understand why bands don't have their own podcasts. It was an absolute piece of piss. And while Josh had got quite a few bits of gear that he'd mounted up over the years, he said he started with just his phone. So that was how he started doing podcasts, was just literally just taking notes, audio notes on his phone. And he even recorded today on his phone as a backup, which he said he has used it and it's fine. So it's such a simple setup that this is something that bands who are not into making videos or feel like they're not going to be good at making videos, podcast, why would you not do that? It's a great way of actually getting a fun community spirit around what you do and building an audience, and then being able to promote something outside of just the music. Seems like an absolute no-brainer to me. Anyway, so we're back in Brighton, well, we're nearly back in Brighton, and I've got a bunch of meetings which I can't take you with me, so hopefully there'll be lots from today, but if not, come back tomorrow. See you then. Peace.